Hi, I'm Matt Meister, the Director of Communications for School District 49. We're a district about having a diverse and exceptional portfolio of schools. As we know, a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't allow us to serve each individual learner. Well, one of the things that we want to do in that portfolio of schools is provide a firm foundation for our students as they begin their educational journey. In 2014, at Odyssey Elementary School, the Lexx program started. This was something that had never been done before. It was providing 50 minutes of dedicated, targeted learning each day to students struggling to understand basic literacy concepts in reading. That was so successful that we're bringing that to a larger segment of the population with the Academy for Literacy, Learning, and Innovation Excellence. Now, when the Lexx program started in 2014, it was so unique, we did a documentary on it. It's about 20 minutes long. You're about to watch it. It's going to give you a perfect idea of what is going to happen as that Lexx program that served a small number of students in Odyssey Elementary School is now going to serve more students in Allies.
Two to 3 weeks into this program, these children are sitting up straighter.
They're not having to hide anymore.
She's like, I can read things, and it's just making a world of difference.
They are taking chances in reading out loud in class when they wouldn't have done that just a few months ago.
This is a whole different world than we've ever experienced.
Now it's really easy to read because I can read the words and it's not so hard.
As far as I know, Odyssey Elementary is the first public school in Colorado to be addressing dyslexia in the classroom every day.
These kids are smart, they're as smart as their classmates, and they're very well aware of the fact that they're not reading as easy as other kids are.
I think our number one job is to teach children to read so then they can pursue literacy in all of these other different avenues.
Now they know why, and now they know how to fix it, and they're excited about learning.
One school is on a journey.
They're proud of their work, they're proud of their accomplishments, they're feeling good about themselves for the first time ever at school.
It's working. You can really tell a difference.
2 months in, I'm like, wow. I mean, night and day. They're picking up books, they're bringing them to me, they're reading to me, whereas before it was a fight.
Teaching differently.
My favorite part is about the reading. I like that.
Making a difference.
And to her come home and say, Mom, I finished my work today. She usually takes longer, and she was just excited to tell me, I finished my work today. I'm so, so happy. So it's been really good to see her blossom.
For students who learn differently.
It's an ideal setting, and I couldn't be more pleased.
You see it too. Her confidence has improved. And I mean, just see her want to read to you instead of avoiding to read to you. It's been a big joy.
Parents are even coming back to us saying, oh my gosh, I wasn't sure what you were telling me that evening, but I think you've got it.
They have broken the code, which is what we're about.
Language is a code. Many of us figure it out on our own. But for those that fit a profile of dyslexia, it's a code that can be hard to break.
Probably the biggest misconception about dyslexia is that dyslexic individuals see things backwards. That's not true at all.
This is a story about an entire school. An entire school serving an often left behind portion of students with brains that learn a different way from their classmates. Teresa Highnote had 35 years of high school teaching experience. It exposed her to the longer-term impacts that students exhibiting at least some of the signs of dyslexia show.
I discovered very, very bright kids were getting to high school and either were non-readers or very inefficient readers.
Readers that fell through the cracks early on because they needed a different way to learn.
As I was teaching high school English, and I'd have these really, really smart kids who would bomb a test. And I'm like, okay, why aren't you studying? What's happening?
A desire to help every student read fed her need for information.
I'd read the test out loud to them and they'd miss one word in that question, which would make them miss the answer to the question.
Highnote spent 3 summers in Colorado Springs at Colorado College, helping Dr. Fitzhugh train teachers in the Take Flight program. That Take Flight training at Colorado College was attended by Joanne Barner. then a teacher at Skyview Middle School in District 49. After implementing the Take Flight program at her school, Barner shared the successes her middle school students were having with Rebecca Thompson, Odyssey Elementary School's assistant principal.
I went to Colorado College and sat through a presentation on the program and thought, oh, maybe this is something that I could do to reach our students.
Thompson began sharing her dream and her plan with her boss, Odyssey's principal, Pam Wire.
Mrs. Thompson wrote a proposal to the Power Zone to get some help for students in the Power Zone that have dyslexia or exhibit dyslexic characteristics. And so we were looking at different things to be able to accommodate those students and give them more hope for being better readers.
Different plans, different connections, but a shared belief that all students should be taught to read, and read well, regardless of how they learn.
For many, many years, we've known that there are students that just leave elementary school not as proficient readers, that whatever we did, it just wasn't enough to help close that gap. And we know that if you don't leave elementary school as a proficient reader, you're going to struggle through middle school and high school, and your future might not look as bright as if you were a proficient reader.
Together, I think we said, oh my gosh, this could be amazing.
Amazing once the right pieces came together.
When you're looking at something very specific like dyslexia, elementary principals, elementary teachers, we're not experts.
Pam said to me, would you like to go to Texas, where they have schools that are for dyslexic students, entire schools. They have all of these programs. And I said, oh my gosh, this would be like a dream come true.
That trip to Texas included a visit to Scottish Rite Hospital, where the Take Flight program had been created.
I flew to Texas, and Lynn met me there. And so she had all of those connections.
Where Thompson got to meet High Note and observe her in action.
This Miss High Note is amazing, is when a student was struggling with something, she stopped the speed of that program and she said, you know what, there's something as a teacher that I feel bad about. You have struggled with this one concept for quite a while, and I don't think I've ever explained to you well enough for you to understand. Let's stop for just a minute. And I'm going to make sure that I can help you to understand this.
This is my 39th year to teach, and I walk in this door every morning going, yeah, look at this campus. This is a joy. You know, this is a great place to be. The expectations and just the enthusiasm and the energy here is just phenomenal.
Odyssey doesn't diagnose a student as being dyslexic. That isn't the school's intent, but it does identify students that fit a profile of dyslexia.
We don't want to put a label on a child just to put a label on a child. We want to try to identify what the problem is so that we can address the problem.
No round air, panting air, gliding air, kicking air, breezy air.
Dyslexia is a very misunderstood word, and a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people are uncomfortable with it. But if we know a child meets a profile of dyslexia, and we know what science has told us can teach that child to read and write, let's get them into that program.
But what makes this program different is the all-day commitment from the intervention classroom to the traditional classroom.
So today you're going to need a pink highlighter and a green highlighter.
We have 2 second grade teachers, 2 third grade teachers, and 2 fourth grade teachers who have those students in their class with a mix of other students. So we've also tried to keep those class sizes a little bit smaller, because we know that those general education classroom teachers have up to 10 students who are struggling readers. So therefore we wanted to keep that a little bit lower, but then we're also providing that 45-minute pull-out every day to those students. And so that's kind of how we set it up. And then within that classroom, the teachers have had to kind of embrace some other resources and some other strategies and accommodations to make sure that when those students are in their class, that they're doing something a little bit differently and teaching them what those strategies might be.
Our intention this year was to make sure that our 6 Lexx classrooms, or literacy excellence classrooms, actually got quite a bit different. So they have lots of different interventions and accommodations. So accommodations might be things like they're not held to the same time standard as other students, perhaps. They are given all the extra time they need to complete assessments, to complete assignments, to process things, to answer questions, because that is one of the most profound accommodations you can give someone who's dyslexic is the gift of time.
Each interventionist sees about 30 students a day, about 5 at a time, for 45 intense and intentional minutes.
I have done this in other schools, and I have never seen the 100% on board with the scheduling, with the expectations of what homework will be done and how it's done, the support in the classroom spelling instead of doing their spelling, we send spelling from here. I have never seen across the board where every teacher, the administration, it is 100% support.
We spent a year in planning, we spent a year in training the teachers school-wide so that everyone in the school had an understanding of what would be going on in that classroom for the children with dyslexia and how they could be supportive in their own roles.
And not support because I have to, because this has come down and now I'm a part of it and so I'm compliant, but support in they are expecting good results. They're holding us accountable for good results. And their anticipation is that this is going to make a world of difference for these kids. So the culture here is, yeah, let's go forward. The whole premise is to teach under discovery learning and a reciprocal teaching model where you, the teacher, starts off leading, directing, and the kids begin to take over and become where they are internalizing their learning.
Oi.
And in your mirror,
Oi.
and pull your sound pictures.
Everything is taught in a way in which the kids can learn to respond, but also begin to discover what the next concept is going to be so that they can tell you what is happening within that word. So they can analyze, they can use their own metacognition, becoming very aware of how they think and how they learn and how they acquire those skills.
There is a specific order to what is being taught in that intervention. But I think what it does, it goes all the way back to the very basics. You can't start anywhere you want in that program. Every student, every adult goes all the way back to square one with sounds and letters. And they work from there through all of the rules of spelling and reading.
Look and listen, echo, unblend, put on your sound pictures, add, take away, switch, trade.
Let's do it again.
Add,
Take away, trade, switch, repeat.
The dyslexic has to pull in all of their senses in order to be able to acquire that sound. So we want them to, or that word or that letter that you're working on, we want them to look at it, and as they're looking at it, say it. So now there's two ways that that information is going in their brain. As they're writing it, they're looking at it, they're saying it, and they're writing it. That gives it 3 ways into their brain. So it really tends to make them hyper-focus on what they're doing to a point that every way that they can take in information is being used, which builds and strengthens those weaker pathways that they may not be normally or automatically using, and strengthen the pathways that they are already using so that both can pull in together and help them acquire that language.
And one of the most profound things I found in the research that it does is it actually changes the way the brain of a dyslexic person works. They do MRIs before that intervention is done, and they do MRIs after the intervention is done, and you can actually see a difference in the way the brain is working.
He's writing, reading, echoing, naming, and just doing different things where he's actually visual as well as auditory, and just doing a whole combination of things at the same time so that it really sticks.
And when you think about what they accomplish in a 45-minute class period, wow, it's fast-paced.
It's not just a little bit of reading here, a little bit of reading there. It's consistent. It's every day, including Fridays. It's every day of the week, and then we continue it through the weekend, and then he comes back and gets reinforced through the school.
These students aren't lazy. These students they haven't perhaps given up. It's not that they don't want to read. It's not that they want to even misbehave. There's reasons for everything they're doing. And often those reasons come all the way back to dyslexia. And I'm struggling with all these things, but nobody knew, and I didn't know as a child. I didn't have a word for it, and I didn't have a way to describe it to you. So I think all of that opened up to all of our teachers, those understandings.
Anecdotally, as you're watching, even before you put an assessment in front of the kids, if you look at where they started the day that they started and where they are now, it's very different. They would line up and come to class, but they didn't want to be here. They didn't know what was going on. Now if we're coming down the hall, if I'm a little bit late coming off of duty, they want to know why I'm late and why I'm not in here already, because they want to learn.
I think I've improved with my reading and how I code now, and like how I can like do sentences much faster.
Now they're running, handing me my phone. They're like, time me, look, I've gotten better. And they're tracking their progress, and they're so excited. And there's just a glow on their face, and it's just so nice to see. And to know that they're happy where they are, they're safe, and they're growing, and they're gonna end up being the best individual they can be. And I credit a lot to that program.
When that child was born, their expectations were their child would acquire language easily, like most everybody else does. And that child loved to be read to, loved books, then went to school, and couldn't figure out why it worked for everybody else and not them. So now the child is coming home not wanting to go to school, not excited about learning, and don't bring a book into the conversation at all. And that's turning around. So this was a risk for the parents as much as for anybody else, because they're entrusting those kids to us not to hurt them again, because they've already been let down one time through no fault of their own. They don't know why it doesn't work, through no fault of the teacher, through no fault of the system. But this is a different way of thinking for them. The brain is not broken, it's just thinking in a little bit differently. So we take that child and give them the opportunity to be able to apply what we're doing in class in here, into the class and into the real world, and have a structure and a coping mechanism that is more than just getting through. It is, I can do this and I can do this well. And then now this child can be anything that child can dream that they want to be, because they won't be limited by their inability to read.
I think she's helped me a lot with my reading and doing a lot of stuff, like doing alphabets and like doing coding and all that stuff.
We'd love to go on this journey together. We'd love to take your child on this journey, and this may take us in many different directions. We'd love for you to go on it with us. We're looking at accommodations, we're looking at interventions, we're looking at the gifts your child brings to you and to us here at Odyssey and to the world, and we would love for you to go on this journey with us, and if we're wrong, that's okay. We're going on a journey, and together we're going to come across brilliant things together and figure out how we can best help your student.
I applaud Odyssey for taking the steps, for Rebecca Thompson, Joanne Barner for really taking those steps and seeing a need.
No stable syllable BLE. Accent the syllable before it. A vowel in a closed syllable is short.
Don't be afraid to just jump in. Don't be afraid to learn about this. Don't be afraid to try this. I think we want to always have all of the knowledge, and we want to do everything perfect, and we want to be able to say everything perfectly and to describe everything perfectly. We need to not be worried if we're going on this journey and we don't have all the answers on day one. We need to work together. Many times schools are in isolation. This school tries this, the school tries this. And I don't know that we talk enough between schools, between districts, as an educational entity. And we need to do that. We need to sit down at a table together with a cup of coffee and say, just try this. Let's talk about it. I can't wait to share with you the passion I have for this, because it's worked, because we have so many students and parents that are just ecstatic and that are smiling and that are wanting to come to school and wanting to read. And so I think just try it.
This program has helped me in reading words properly.
If this school can do it, you can too. I think when parents across the state see that it can successfully happen for a dyslexic child to receive reading instruction every day during the school day as it should be, those parents are going to say, why can't my child have this too?
I just want to thank my parents for, putting me into this program. It really helped me a lot, and I just love my teacher so much. I just really, them to know that I'm really thankful for them putting me in this group.
There were students I can still picture their faces, and it breaks my heart to know I think I missed them. I wish I could go back with the knowledge I have now and capture them and say, I know the answer now, I'm so sorry. Imagine if I had taught everybody everything I know about this, what I could have opened up for the world. I just think that somebody has to make sure this gets out to everybody, and I would love to help make that happen for everybody in education.
Knowing that other districts can now take the model that District 49 was brave enough to take the risk and step out there and the expenditure and make that commitment that it's made, and it can be replicated all over the state.
It's one of those things that as a parent you really are grateful, not knowing what you're getting into at first, but then seeing the results. It's one of those things, woo, I didn't have to look into anything, it just happened. But knowing what I know now, I would say to other outsiders, please look into it, because it is a program that's very helpful for your children.
I've gotten better at reading and writing my cursive letters, and I can read 2 chapters now, and I could only read 1 chapter before, so I think it's really helped me.